we now need to come up with some mathematical process where we can add two or more complex numbers together. So if Z1 is one of our complex numbers, and it's made up of the real part plus an imaginary part. So we'll use subscripts 1 to denote that x1 is the real part of complex number Z1, y1 is the imaginary part of complex number Z1, and the other complex number, which is Z2, logically is x2 plus I y2. So we need to come up with a definition of how we go about adding these two complex numbers together. So Z1 plus Z2, adding the two together, is simply x1 plus I y1, Z1, and then we're going to add Z2, which is x2 plus I y2. And we do no more here than just group the reals together, and the reals are x1 and x2, so we get x1 plus x2, and then we group the imaginaries together. So we get I y1 plus I y2. Now by the distributive law, I is common to both I y1 and I y2, so it can come out the front. The real remains unchanged as x1 plus x2, plus I outside of y1 plus y2. So this is the real part of Z1 plus Z2, and this is the imaginary part of Z1 plus Z2. Just as an example, if you've got 3 minus 4i plus 7 plus 3i, we add the reals together and we get 3 plus 7, and then we put the imaginaries together, which is minus 4i plus 3i. We group the reals and we mathematically add the reals. 3 plus 7 is 10. Now minus 4i plus 3i gives us a net result of negative 1i. We don't write the 1, we just put negative I. So 3 minus 4i plus 7 plus 3i, we group the reals together, we group the imaginaries together, we combine those two together, and we get a net result. Okay, so subtraction of complex numbers is done in a similar way, except we've got subtraction. So Z1 is x1 plus I y1, Z2 is equal to x2 plus I y2, Z1 minus Z2 is equal to x plus I y, x1 plus I y1, take away x2 plus I y2, and I think it's a good idea here to put the second one in brackets because that negative has an influence on what happens to the signs inside there. So when we remove brackets here, we get x1 plus I y1 minus x2. Now that minus outside this bracket makes that plus into a negative I y2. We group the reals together. So these are the two reals, so we get x1 minus x2, and then we get plus I y1 minus I y2. And as we did before with addition, this just becomes the real of z1 minus z2. And going back up, what we're going to do here is take the I outside again, so it'll be plus I outside of y1 minus y2 using the distributive law. And this is your imaginary part of z1 minus z2. Once again, if we do an example, we've got 4 plus 3i minus 6 plus 2i. Okay, we're going to subtract those two together. We've got 4 plus 3i, removing the first brackets, removing the second brackets will be minus 6 and then that minus makes that into minus 2i. Get the reals together, so these two here together, 4 minus 6 is negative 2. And then we combine the imaginaries together, and we've got plus 3 minus 2 gives us a plus 1i. Now we don't write 1i, we just write I. So we've combined the reals together. 4 minus 6 is negative 2, and 3 minus 2i, 3i minus 2i is just equal to plus 1i. So it'll be negative 2 plus I. This is the real, this is the plus 1 is the imaginary part of that answer. So just going back in summary again, when we want to add two complex numbers together, we simply add the reals and we add the imaginaries to get our answer. When we are subtracting complex numbers, two complex numbers together, we subtract the reals from each other and we subtract the imaginaries.